How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today I'm really excited because we're going to be talking about a big new horror movie, and that is The Conjuring Last Rights. This just came out September 5th, 2025. It was directed by Michael Chaves and stars Vera Farmiga, Patrick Wilson, Mia Tomlinson, and Ben Hardy. And this is the fourth of the Main Line Conjuring films and the 10th film overall. And judging by that subtitle Last Rights, this appears to be the final one. Probably not the absolute final one. I'm betting we're gonna get more Nun and Annabelle films, and I think I heard a rumor of a Conjuring TV show. I doubt it's the last overall, but this is going to be the last of the Vera Farmiga, Patrick Wilson films. And I have to say, the way they played those characters, they're really great actors, and I love how this version of Ed and Lorraine are honestly nice people that are giving it their all to go out and help families in need. These versions of the characters are really great, and I love these actors playing them, and I don't know if the series can survive without them. But that being said, I was also a little bit nervous about this movie for another reason, and that's because James Wan's not directing it. James Wan directed the first two Conjuring movies. I remember seeing them in theaters over a decade ago, and both Part 1 and Part 2 are absolute classic horror movies. And then when we lost James Wan in Part 3, you could definitely tell. James Wan's still on as a producer, and I think he also gets a story by credit, but when you're doing the final chapter, I wish you had brought him back. The director of this movie, Michael Chaves, started out on a low point. He directed The Curse of La Llorona, which is generally considered to be the worst film in the whole franchise. He would, however, get a little better. The Conjuring 3, like I said, was nowhere near the first two, but then when he moved on and did The Nun 2, I think that was totally solid. Not great, but solid. And I think once again, this is a bit of a step up. You could tell that he had looked at criticisms of Conjuring 3 and had tried to rectify them. The big problem with Part 3 is that you didn't really get to know the family super well, and here they are bringing in more characterization, and I really do like that. Characterization for the family, but also for Ed and Lorraine, giving them much more screen time and making it a good, proper send-off for these characters. We also get some good haunted house sequences, and you can definitely tell they were looking at other entries in the franchise and trying to mimic a few scenes from them. It's also shot very well. Good, nice highlights, good, deep, dark shadows, and some nice wood tones in the middle. There's lots of wood in this house. It looks really cool. But that being said, the movie did fall a little bit flat. Don't get me wrong, it's a totally solid movie, but it just wasn't as scary as it should be, and I feel like the movie in general was a little lukewarm, and then the horror sequences needed to punch just a little bit more. Again, the thing's okay. I just wish it was a little better. It's a good enough send-off for the franchise, and in general I did like it, but yeah, it's just one that was kind of missing something, and when the DVD comes out, I definitely want to do a marathon and try to figure out what that missing piece was. But all that being said, what's the movie about? I'm not going to do any significant spoilers, and I'll focus primarily on setup, but I do want to talk a little bit about the plot. Again, I know this is a new movie, people are super worried about spoilers. I'll try not to ruin anything big, and again, just focusing on setup, but let's take a bit of a deeper dive. The movie opens up with Ed and Lorraine in an interesting place. After Ed's heart attack from Part 3, Ed and Lorraine are primarily doing lectures and trying to write a book, but they're not actively out there helping people, and you can tell that that's weighing on them. And I really do like keeping Ed's heart attack from Part 3. It was such a big moment in there, and the way that it's kind of weighing them down really does add to the tension. And I like seeing them as people that have already given so much, but the problems of the world are still there. They just physically can't give anymore. But that being said, what's the haunting this time around? Well, it turns out we have a big family. 8 people living in a house a little bit too small for them. They actually kind of mimic this shot that I think was from the first Conjuring, where they start with the camera outside and then we get a really nice oneer that goes through the house and we get to check in with a lot of the characters. And yeah, the house is full of life and full of energy, and you do get to know the family a fair bit. Well, it turns out it's one of the daughter's consecrations. I think that's what it's called. It's basically a Catholic coming-of-age ritual, and the grandparents give the daughter a mirror. It's this big, nice-looking old mirror with 3 creepy faces on the top and a big crack in the center. And wouldn't you know it, after they put it in the daughter's room, the paranormal activity starts to heat up. We get to see some ghost with some really cool, creepy, almost Evil Dead-style makeup, and the family starts to get tormented by them. And of course, Ed and Lorraine are going to get called to this. You see, the mirror was actually one of the first cases they ever did. This will be the prologue sequence. And they had to kind of just leave it be. They weren't ready for it. And it almost cost them the life of their unborn baby. So that's been hanging over their head for quite some time. However, both Lorraine and her daughter Judy are going to get mysterious dark visions calling them to the haunting. And I really do like that. It's not just Lorraine, we're getting more with Judy. She's been in all the mainline movies as well. It's a different actress, but we do get some resolution to the character. She's getting older, she has a serious boyfriend, the visions are getting bigger and more intense, and she can't keep bottling them up anymore. Ed and Lorraine want to protect her, but she's drawn to the same fate as her mother. And obviously, eventually, the Warrens and the haunting will cross paths. But I think the big flaw with this movie is it doesn't really happen soon enough. Don't get me wrong, movies run on character, and I really love all the character beats, but the back and forth between the two wasn't really the best. If you guys remember the first 2 Conjuring movies, Ed and Lorraine didn't actually have as much screen time in the beginning of those as you might think. And I get it's the finale, you want to show them more, and I totally support that. But that being said, when you have so much of the main haunting at this house and then so much of the Warrens in their life and where it is now, the two halves do kind of feel at war with each other, and there doesn't really feel like there's enough space for both. And I think really the solution to this would have been to have the Warrens get there sooner, because it really does take the Warrens a long time to get started on this case. Now, in regards to the haunting itself, it is pretty cool. There's some fun sequences, like this bit with a phone cord, and we also get this sequence in the basement, which was really fun, and does kind of mirror stuff we saw from like The Conjuring 2. We also get a few sequences with this really creepy plastic baby doll, and again, one shot definitely borrowed from Annabelle. In fact, Annabelle shows up more than you would think, even though it's not her movie. I guess the daughter was so traumatized from Annabelle Comes Home that she just sees Annabelle wherever. It is a little bit shoved in there, but okay, Annabelle's fun. Yeah, just throw her into the pot, I guess. But I think the big problem with the haunting in this movie, and don't get me wrong, again, the character work and the haunting are so much better than part 3, but I think the big problem is the spirits here didn't have as much sense of identity. They do have a fun makeup effect on them, but to be honest, when I saw the second spirit, I was like, why does that ghost look different? I didn't really get the impression that there was more than one until it was made abundantly clear, and I wish the ghost here had more personality. I mean, look back at Conjuring 2, they gave a lazy boy recliner personality, and then in the finale where it built up to the nun, that was really cool, and the nun was one of the best Conjuring enemies. Sadly, the mirror doesn't have that much of a personality. We do get a bit of a fun sequence, and it does take place over the course of the whole house with all the different characters, but again, it kind of does feel a little rushed because it takes the Warrens so long to get there. When the Warrens got there in part 1, you had that whole bit with them setting up the equipment, and you had all the other people they drug in as well, their assistants and the police officer and whatnot. You had more time for them to brew at the haunting site, and I think that probably really helped the finale have more weight to it. Because as it stands, when they finally get there, we kind of just rush into a big battle with the mirror. And again, it's that sense of pacing. I did like the character work, but there was so much going on in the first half, and we really needed to shift into investigation mode, and that would have probably saved a lot. Again, the problems with Conjuring 4 are a little hard to put your finger on, and I don't want to be the reviewer that just says it's not scary enough or it was slow in places, even though that is in general true. While I did love the character work, I think it just took it too long to start the investigation, and it felt like those were two movies at war with each other rather than working together. And again, the haunting needed more of its own unique personality. I think that probably would have helped it. Again though, I don't want to complain too much. This is so much better than Conjuring 3, and overall, where it puts the characters is a pretty good send-off to them. It's a totally fine finale, but nowhere near as good as 1 and 2. Overall, it is probably worth watching, especially if you're a big fan of the series. I know I've seen all 10 of these films, and that's over the course of over a decade. You really do feel like you live and grow with these things, and it is going to be sad to see the mainline films end. Whatever they try next, I hope for the best, but at least we went out on a decent enough note. Anyway though, all that being said, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. If you guys want to see me talk about more 2025 movies, including things like Bring Her Back and The Wolfman, you can feel free to click right here and see more. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very soon. Playlist here. Have a good day now.